I have been wanting to make a video about horror anime, and since it's Halloween, what better time to do it than now? But just talking about horror anime isn't fun, so let's also talk about Japanese horror, as well as horror manga. Strap yourself in, cause this is gonna be a spooky ride. So what is Japanese horror? Well, Japanese horror is more psychological than Western horror, and tends to focus a lot on building suspense, as well as using Japanese folklore as its basis. This can make it a bit of a tough sell for a lot of Western audiences, since we don't really care about things like yokai. That being said, there are some Japanese horror movies that have received cult status in the West. Movies like Ring and Ju-on are examples of this. Ring is a horror movie released in 1998 based on a novel by the same name and draws on the Japanese folktale Bancho Sadayashiki. It tells the story of a reporter who is on the run to investigate the mystery behind a cursed videotape that kills the viewer in 7 days after it's been watched. Ring was incredibly popular in Japan and became the highest grossing horror movie in the country. It also gained cult status in the West and even inspired a bunch of Western remakes, starting with the 2002 American film The Ring. Ju-on is another popular horror franchise consisting of 13 feature films. The movies generally revolve around a curse created in a house in Nerima, Tokyo, where a man murdered his wife and son. According to the creator Takashi Shimizu, the inspiration for Ju-on came from the rise in domestic abuse in Japan, as well as a personal fear from his childhood, where he had watched the performance of a Japanese dance group that painted their bodies in all white. So that shows us that Japanese horror can be popular in the West, at least with live-action movies. But what then about manga? We can't talk about Japanese horror without mentioning the horror mangaka Junji Ito, a legendary horror mangaka whose works include Tomie, Uzumaki, Gyo, and the collection of short horror stories, the Junji Ito collection. Just ignore the anime adaptation for that. It's not very good. What makes Ito's manga so scary isn't the use of jump scares or over-the-top gore. He instead uses a lot of body horror and the fear of the inevitable. There are few things that are as scary and uncomfortable as seeing your body slowly change into something unrecognizable, or the fear of knowing that there is nothing you can do to stop it. Another thing that Ito does really well in his manga is his utilization of the page turn. He will build up suspense really well, only for the page to end. Then the first panel on the next page shows you exactly what you wanted to see, and simultaneously didn't. This makes for a very thrilling read, and has elevated Ito's name to be synonymous with the horror genre in manga. But what then about horror anime? Just like live action manga, anime also tries to make a horror show every once in a while. However, anime horror seems to fail more often than not. Now, there can be many reasons for that, but going into all that is a whole nother video in itself, so whatever the case is, it's seemingly very rare to find good horror anime. Now I'm gonna give you two examples. An example of a bad horror anime is Corpse Party Tortured Souls. Based on the remake of the Corpse Party game Blood Covered, it tells the story of 9 students who gather at their high school at night to bid farewell to a friend. They perform a popular ritual for them to stay friends forever, however something goes wrong and they are sent to the Heavenly Host Elementary School. A school that was the scene of a series of horrible murders and was subsequently destroyed the year before. Now trapped in this alternate dimension, the students have to find a way to escape, or join the spirits of those who were killed forever. Corpse Party is very much a beloved horror game, but the 4-episode OVA that was made for it was very divisive among the fans. This is partly because it tries to condense the story down, but also because it is more gore porn than horror. It focused more on the killing part of it rather than actually portraying the story, and while it can be entertaining, to me it doesn't really make for a very good horror. An example of good horror anime is Mononoke, not to be confused with the movie Princess Mononoke. This is a 12-episode horror series produced by Toei Animation. It tells the story of the medicine seller, a master of the occult who travels across feudal Japan in search of spirits called Mononoke to slay. But in order to do that, he must first learn its form, its truth, and its reason. This one is quite different from something like Corpse Party. Mononoke is all about the atmosphere. Rather than trying to scare you by throwing super scary monsters at you or by showing you horrific imagery, it draws you in with almost a mystery-like approach. The anime is divided up into small story arcs of either 2 or 3 episodes, and over the course of the arc it will present you with some strange phenomenon that the medicine seller will have to investigate. This makes for some really good suspense, as he has to figure out what this phenomenon is, why it occurs, and who is behind it. This is why I consider it one of the strongest, if not the strongest horror anime. It's more or less everything I want in my Japanese horror, and I hope to see more like it in the future. So that was Japanese horror. There's a lot of good Japanese horror out there, especially in live action movies and manga and even games, but for some reason not so much in anime. Why that is really hard to pin down. However, there are some good horror anime as well, like Mononoke. Hopefully in the future there will be more to be added to the list of good horror anime. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please comment down below about your favorite Japanese horror, be it live action, manga, anime, game, whatever. Also, remember to subscribe to my channel if you want to see more from me.